welcome to the David Squared Podcast. As always, my name is David.
And my name is David.
And this is episode 00. Oh man, which one are we on right now? We had November, December, January, February. This is March, so this would be episode 005 of the David Squared Podcast.
Wow, 5th episodes. We're trucking through these.
I know. Hey, we've allowed for 999 episodes should the need arise, and we can always edit all of our videos to include an extra 0 if we go beyond that. We could keep making these towards the heat death of the universe, and it'd still be easier to watch than season 1 of Critical Role.
Yep.
You've heard of that show?
I think I have.
Yeah, it's basically a bunch of voice actors playing Dungeons and Dragons, and of course 3-hour episodes, so
Oh, yikes.
there's like a couple hundred of them, so yeah, incentive to watch our podcast. So, David, what's this about a new series I heard about on this podcast?
Ooh, are you talking about Demon Squared?
No, I'm talking about our defunct Oregon Trail gaming channel, David's on the Trail. Yes, I'm talking about Demon Squared.
Alright, Demon Squared. I'll tell you a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we recently finished recording our first episode for that. It's pretty much, we have a very loose script that we work around with an end goal, with our episodes set up in I don't know what to call them. It's like a very good storytelling storyline.
Yeah, it's audio format. Basically, we have the major plot beats, but we don't have, like, the lines or really most of what we say set in stone. Basically, there'll be the script is basically 3 bullet points on what will happen each set of 10 minutes for the half hour. Because this, we're very, 10-minute segments.
Yeah, it's very hard. I shouldn't say it's very hard. It's fun, but it's also hard at the same time to figure out what we're gonna say. But it kind of makes it fun.
Yeah, I know. One of the best parts was when I was getting cast into the demon realm, and you just had to, for a couple minutes, just kind of improvise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'm very sorry to all of the people from the American South down down there in places like Washington and Minnesota, the American South, about the accent I'm butchering. By the way, continuing the David Squared geography.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and Greenland. That's also in the American South.
Look at the lore map. I think that's right.
I'm butchering all of the accents, but hey. Just wait till I start butchering Russian accents.
Ooh, man. Maybe the 6 mile long studio will be the next airstrike.
Yeah, maybe. Still, we have a 12-mile long bomb shelter underneath, so.
I wasn't aware of this. Why did no one tell me?
Oh. See, we live in tricky times, and social distancing is required. And if there's one thing I know about social distancing, you have to stand 6 miles apart from everyone. We've already got Chris Hemsworth and Indica booked for the shelter, so and me. So with 2 of us on the end and 1 in the middle, there's just no room for you.
Oh, I totally understand.
See, it makes sense. Anyway, let's see, there was one other thing. Oh yeah, so originally for this episode, we were going to try and do David Cubed. And unfortunately, our 3rd David backed out, as did the 4th David, who we were going to get to. So, it's just us this time. One got sick, one just had scheduling conflict. It's just us, no guests, but hopefully we can still entertain you. Actually, wait, what makes us think we ever were able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still trying to achieve that goal. I don't know if we have yet.
Yeah, I know. But hey, we hope to have a good time. A good time with all of you today. Did I cut out there for a second?
I don't think you did.
Okay, good. As you can see, we're professionals who have all of our tech issues sorted out way ahead of the actual recording of the podcast.
Yeah, we had our microphone set up. We knew exactly who was going to be recording. We got the software going.
Yeah, we got the... No, we don't have it. We don't take care of that stuff. It's Chris Hemsworth on his WeVideo Premium account.
Yeah. Yeah, and the power that runs the Wi-Fi is powered by a hamster wheel with 3 hamsters. So sometimes if the internet cuts out, blame the hamsters.
I was going to say that. Actually, you say it's 3 hamsters, but I forgot to tell you I gave Loretta maternity leave, so...
Oh, no.
Yeah. Which, by the way, that's also... now that I mention it, about 20 days ago, that's why Loretta and Michael weren't working.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The hamster jokes continue. But yeah, Damien's a hard worker. He can do the power of 3 hamsters for 1.
Yeah, I was considering maybe giving him a raise to maybe like 2 cents an hour, but I don't know. I don't know if that's in the budget.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a pretty shoestring budget right now. Normally, when you can't get hamsters, we put Chris Hemsworth in the hamster wheel. So
he's not a fan, but I mean, he does get paid like $1 an hour, so he'll kind of do what we want.
That's not what we established. Wait, have you given him a raise? Because last I checked, we only gave him a red Skittle and some pocket change.
Well, you see, so I've been going to the gas station a lot, so I've been racking up a lot of change, and I did some calculations. I think it's almost $1 now, so I think I might need to give him half my pocket change. I don't know.
Oh, half your... Okay, I see how it is, yeah. Alright, well, yeah, so we've been doing a lot of stuff. Hopefully we can, at some point, get that David's on the Trail back up. But right now, we're doing the Demon Squared mini-series. It will be 6 episodes. We have a general outline of how they're going to take shape. There's some interesting characters. You can see our friend Edison Harrington over there. A demon from Tennessee.
Hey, yep.
which is in a state in the American South right next to Greenland.
Yep. Oh man, we need to draw out a map.
This is gonna be one terrible map.
Yes. And then show it to I should say name, but our geography teacher at our school.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We should. This will be fun. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, so you want to get into our first topic?
I think we should.
Okay, so our topics for today are probability and odds, and then clay. Which one should we start with?
Whichever.
You know what we could do? I have a dice right here. Per the topic of the episode, we could leave it to chance.
I like this idea.
Okay. If it rolls even, we do clay. If it rolls odd, we do the odds.
All right.
Let's do this. 2. We start with clay.
All right.
Unless I've rigged it.
Oh. Weighted dice. Messing with the odds.
No, that's next topic. Alright, so, clay. I've been doing a lot with clay recently. But before we really get into that, David, I'd like you to tell the folks at home, or at school, or on a bus stop, or wherever they're listening to this, or in the demon realm. I know we have a couple listeners over there. YouTube analytics are very helpful, by the way. Anyway, so yeah, David, why don't you tell our people across the mortal realm and the demon realm, and our one Martian listener, about what you know and your experiences with clay and the such.
So, personally for me, I don't know. I really never got into clay. I mean, I kind of messed around with it in school, of course. I'm not very knowledgeable in clay. I know that it's pretty fun to mess around with, but that's about it.
Okay, so my dad actually got me into clay. He used to make clay stuff, and then I got into it, and I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I think I have quite a talent of it. Yeah, I know all the. I'm not gonna pretend I know all the exciting developments of the clay world, and I'm not great in ceramics. But yeah, just craft clay I've used for a variety of purposes: game pieces, crafting the. Crafting little miniatures. A lot of times I've used it for school projects. More aside from that, I've used it a lot. It's been a very fun journey. Actually, I have a couple things I've learned from years of clay work. Yes, I think that sounds pretty cool. One thing you want to do is, if you're creating a large project with a lot of similar pieces of the same color, coat what you're making in the color you want it to be, and then make the bulk, the meat of the clay, so to speak, a different color that you're not using as much.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it allows you to sustain clay. So, suppose, just picking this out of random, no real life basis for this, you wanted to make a tan clay thing. Okay? what you'd want to do is what you'd want to use is pick a color you're not going to use, say blue or yellow for the character. Create a base of that and then coat it in tan, and that way you can use blue or yellow. You're not stuck with one color for that interior like you are the exterior. So obviously clay of any color is more numerous than clay of this color.
Right.
So that's a little tip I've learned. Mixing clay can be fun to create new colors. Clay is something I very much like.
Clay seems like one of those. It's one of the very few, or I shouldn't say very few, but it's one of the more common, like 3-dimensional art styles.
It is, and I'm not talking about ceramics, by the way. I've never really tried ceramics that much, but with just the craft clay, it may seem juvenile, like a Play-Doh type thing, but I think I've made some pretty good stuff with it. I'd know. You know what sucks, David? When you have clay creations burned in the oven. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
I remember when I was a kid, I was obsessed with the game Angry Birds. Do you remember that? Or do you know that game?
I think most kids were.
Yeah, so my dad actually for me made a number of Angry Birds based clay creations. So I tried my hand at it with creating the ice bird from the Space spin-off game.
Right.
Do you ever play that, the Space spin-off?
I think I might have. The ice one sounds familiar, at least.
Yeah, it's kind of cuboid. Yeah, it's a nice one. So I tried my hand at that, and it actually turned out pretty well. But then it got burnt in the oven, and I was mad. Of course, if you're going for something purposely horrifying, just throwing it out there, let's suppose you were creating an army of terrible clay minions with horrifying expressions on their faces. Sometimes games, if you burn a batch, it's not so much ruined as it's just horrifying in a new way, because now they're all charred. They look like they've seen some things. They've been through some stuff. So, yeah, clay's been a lot. It's kind of fun to work with, and although it does get on your hands. So, now that we've done that, you want to talk about the odds, probability, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I don't know much about odds and probability and stuff, but I do know a few cool things regarding like the probability of like the lottery and stuff like that.
Okay.
And one of the interesting things that I've heard, I heard this a while back, and of course I didn't get much information, like I don't know exact numbers, but you have almost the same probability to win the lottery as you do if you put life insurance on a random someone that works in the logging industry, just a random person that works in the logging industry, because apparently the numbers of that's so dangerous, that work is dangerous enough that paying for their life insurance, that they might randomly die and you'll get a payout. It's almost the same probability as going to the lottery and buying a ticket.
That's actually fairly interesting. I would assume it'd be a much higher probability, because, if it's a dangerous field.
Right. I think where it comes in, though, is that there's a lot of people that work in it. So, it kind of skews the numbers. And plus, you'll have people that do, like, the non-dangerous jobs. Like, you can still work in the logging industry, but just have a job like planting trees, where it's less dangerous.
Yeah, which is interesting because the lumber industry, we always think of them chopping down trees, but, they actually go a long way towards it's populating the planet with trees because it's smart business.
If you want to see a really good demonstration of that is driving through I think it was Arkansas, Alabama, or something like that.
Yeah.
It was on a drive down to Louisiana. You could see the different cuts of logs. You could see one that was completely cut down, one that was just barely growing, one that was like a couple years old, and then one that was maybe a 20-year-old patch. You could see clearly the different ages of trees as they went along, because they were and then cutting them down.
I didn't know you went to Europe, David.
Yeah. No, it was the first time to Europe. It was awesome.
Yeah. But man, you went all the way to Arkansas, Alabama, and Louisiana. I mean, we all know those are Eastern European countries.
It was very hard to drive across the ocean, but we did manage it.
This geography gag is just gonna get crazier, isn't it?
It keeps getting worse.
Like, every time we talk about geography, it just gets worse.
Yeah, every time we talk about the geography, a random world geography textbook just combusts and catches on fire.
I hope our school's geography teachers don't listen to this podcast because they're gonna be like, my life's work down the drain.
I thought you got a B in my class. What is this?
Yeah, I know.
Oh man, the probability of that.
Yeah, we should probably get back to probability. If you've ever read Randall Monroe's What If book, which I've read a lot. I've read all 3 of his books. He did only write 3. I'm 80% sure. He's gonna write another one soon, a sequel to What If. Which, side note, I know we're doing a lot of asides here, but to quick aside, so his book is called What If, absurd or real scientific answers to absurd hypothetical questions, and it's just like it sounds. My question, I actually submitted a question. I doubt it'll be in the new book. It never got answered, but I submitted a question through the proper channels, and my question was, what would happen if you actually had a Noah's Ark of animals, 2 of each kind, aboard a ship? Who would eat who? Who'd be the last one standing, How would you have to feed them? What would be the logistics of that?
Ooh, that would be really hard to answer.
Well, he's answered a lot of harder things.
I mean, I think just because you have to deal with, instincts and natural, like some animals are more aggressive than others, but of course there's probably a number that you could come up to signify that, or a variable.
Yeah, I mean, although he is more of a physics guy, so I see why he's not to really tackling the more biological question that I posed, so... we mean no ill will to you, Randall Monroe. Also, thank you for making Serena Williams murder or drown. I'm not going to explain that story, but it's a true one. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. In his original What If book, someone asked, what would be the probability if you guessed on all SAT questions to get a perfect score? And
I think we actually touched on a little bit of this in an ACT prep class I took.
Yeah, and he said, first of all, SAT guessing, it can be an effective strategy, if you but don't guess on every question, obviously. He also said that He also said that the... What was I gonna say? He said that the chance, even if you got all of the essay questions right, the chance of guessing your way to a perfect score was about the chance of all former U.S. presidents getting struck with lightning within 1 hour of each other. All living U.S. presidents, current and former.
Wow, that's really low.
Now, keep in mind, this was in 2012. I don't know how many presidents were alive then than right now, former presidents. Because Obviously, people have former presidents have probably died since then, but also there have been new since 2012. There's also been Trump and Biden who were not former or current presidents at the time.
Right.
So yeah, by the way, this is probably the most controversial politics we're going to talk in this podcast. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's for you at home looking for a political podcast, look elsewhere because, yeah. We are
right,
not...
Dave, where does he...
We
David
are not it.
Record.
Last election, I voted for the Lightning.
Very good choice.
So, anyway, by the way, that was a joke, by the way. We don't actually wish any harm upon any current or former U.S. presidents, okay? See, you gotta be careful with that stuff, David.
Yep, need to be very careful.
Please don't investigate us, FBI. We are but harmless Hawaiian or Oregon high school students at Anonymous High School.
And while you're at it, do not check the tax records for the 6 Mile Long studio. I promise they're up to date.
And if you do investigate us, know that we're going to blame the whole thing on the hamster we gave maternity leave to.
Yeah, I mean, it can all be traced back. The problem that it's all their fault is 100%.
Oh my gosh. So back to probability. There is this interesting relationship we humans have with probability, where it almost feels like if something's unlikely but has like a 25, it's almost like we like a 25% chance of success more than a 40%,
Yeah, I mean, I think that mostly be because you can imagine a 25. It's a 1 out of 4.
Yeah, but like a 40% is just like a 50-50, but worse odds. I know, it's a very weird relationship humans have with numbers in general. I think it has to do with how our minds kind of work. But, yeah, I mean, and then, of course, the big chance game is, of course, Russian roulette, which, first off, don't play Russian roulette, okay?
Don't.
Yeah, don't. If you win, you're still breaking the law, and if you lose, things get bad.
Yeah, it's like best case scenario, one of your friends dies.
I mean, kinda, yeah. So don't play Russian roulette, but there's this idea that the 1 in 6 chance is relatively low, but
Right.
and the rewards oftentimes for these gambling places are very high, but it's also like your life is so valuable that, by the way, wholesome message from the Davids: your life is valuable. Anyway, but a human life is so valuable that it's just not the kind of thing you want to risk.
Right.
So, and that also raises that question of the risk-reward factor. How much of a risk are you willing to accept if the reward is high enough?
That's because there's always a line of somewhere it's like, okay, that's a little bit too much.
I remember one time at one of those, it was a place like Chuck E. Cheese, but it wasn't Chuck E. Cheese, I forget what it was. There was this spinning game. It was basically gambling. You put in your tokens, you spun the thing. If you chose something like red, which inhabited a large slice, you got a little payout, but then if you chose something like white and it landed on white, you got a ton, because white was the tiniest sliver. I was an idiot. I bet on white, and then found out that the machine was broken, so that if you bet on white, it always gave you payout. Furthermore, you got double payout if you bet on white twice in a row. If you bet on white and it actually landed on white.
Right.
That was because the knob thing was bent downward already on white, instead of having to be pushed down by the ball or whatever, or by the marker. I don't remember what it was. Anyway, I made a huge thing that day, but there's also this idea of we're constantly risking things, but only one thing ever happens. And the idea that, there's also that kind of idea in a D&D campaign where a dungeon master presents a scenario, but then there's multiple ways a player can go.
Mm-hmm.
There's this idea that you like the uncertainty of life. You like the probability and the chance, but in the end, no matter what you do, only one thing happens.
Right.
So there's definitely something in that, and also there's this idea that people always count on getting an average or above average result, typically.
Right. That kind of reflects with just grades alone.
Yeah, that too. Well, that I think is a symptom of grade inflation, which I know we're getting off the topic a little bit, but grade inflation is this concept that it's getting that a C is no longer an average. Now it's a B or an A that's an average.
Right, I got that.
So, and part of it is, and a symptom of that is, a D is no longer really a passing grade. Some teachers still call it that, but most of the time people say a D is a problem instead of just being below average.
Yeah, like a D or even sometimes a C is like, oh, you have a bad grade in your class. You have a problem in that class.
And it used to
be still technically.
It used to be average, but no, there's this fear of being below average, which is weird because half of all the population is below average. It's at whatever, or at any given topic, half of the world is below average on that.
Right.
So, it's a very, probability though is a very weird topic, because It's predicting in a situation like this, what's the most likely thing to happen. Actually, that's another thing, too, is suppose there's a chance where nothing has a chance, where none of the chances are the majority. But,
right.
What do you call, how do you think of the highest slice of the pie? Because it's the outcome that's most likely, but it's an outcome that's still, but it's an outcome that probably won't happen. It will probably be something other than that, but nothing other than that is likely to be the outcome. It's a very weird dilemma there.
That is kind of weird.
Like if you have a 20%, a 30%, a 15%, a 15%, a 10%, and a 10%. The 30% is the most likely outcome, but it's unlikely that that will be the outcome.
Right.
It's a very probability is a very strange topic, and I know honestly probably a better one than Clay because we've spent 18 minutes on it, but
something I didn't expect going into this probability conversation was how much it relates back to our own lives. I mean, now I'm looking around and thinking, that poster on my wall, what's the probability that it'll just fall?
Yeah, and how
no reason.
How the chance happens. And then you get into the physical concept of quantum mechanics, which there's this general idea that when you get really small, things behave unpredictably. There's no longer that distinction really between particles and waves, which are kind of a lower form representation of matter versus energy. And in theory, there's a very low chance literally anything could happen because of quantum mechanics. There's a prediction that if you put a car in a garage, after a few million years, it will leak out of that garage due to the random nature of the molecules.
Is that like there's a cool theory I heard about. I don't know if it's related, but it sounds like it does. That if you slap a table or like slap a wall or something, there's an extremely low chance that the particles might join together and your hand will become stuck or something like that.
Well, that's the thing about this quantum stuff is there's an infinitesimal chance of literally anything happening on the topic.
Right.
It's obviously very unlikely. There was a Mr. Something in Wonderland, a book from I think the 50s or 60s, on physical concepts expressed in a world. And one of them was like, what if the speed of light was lower and general relativity followed? One of them was a quantum jungle almost, where tigers and normal things existed kind of in multiple related places at once because of the quantum mechanics. Obviously, I'm a little out of my depth here, but yeah, this whole discussion raises our relationship with probability and chance and our obsession with finding out what's going to happen. But honestly, I think there's some beauty in uncertainty. Without uncertainty, the underdog would never win.
Right.
And even we have this weird relationship with the unpredictable, where it at least seems weird, but you really think we want the good thing to happen, and whichever probability that is, we're rooting for it.
Man, you said you were way out of your depth. I think I drowned 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. But we root for good things, and it's no matter how unlikely, and we're constantly trying to figure out the most likely way to make things work.
Yep.
It's the optimism of human nature.
Yep.
Well, that I think is our podcast. Thank you for listening. Next month, we might do a parody, or we might have a David on. We're not really sure. But thank you for listening, and until next time, you want to do it, David?
Sure. Here we go. Insert catchphrase here.
Yeah!